Dobar to all of our Bulgarian librarians and the staff working at the public library. This is the Davenport Public Library staff wishing you a happy International Book Day. We hope you enjoy our YouTube presentation to you all.
Who took the cookies from the cookie jar? The jar was full. Where did they go? Oh, I see. Mouse took the cookies from the cookie jar. Who, me? Couldn't be. Please don't tease. I eat cheese. And who took the cookies? The jar was full. Where did they go? Oh, I see. Bird took the cookies from the cookie jar. Who, me? I eat worms. And who took the cookies? The jar was full. Oh, I see. Rabbit took the cookies from the cookie jar. Who, me? Couldn't be. Must hop, never stop. And who took the cookies? The jar was full. Oh, I see. Turtle took the cookies from the cookie jar. Who, me? Couldn't be. As you know, I'm much too slow. Then who took the cookies? The jar was full. Oh, I see. Hippo took the cookies from the cookie jar. Who, me? That's crazy. I'm much too lazy. Then who took the cookies? The jar was full. Oh, Beaver took the cookies from the cookie jar. Who, me? Couldn't be. My favorite snack is our sticks in a stack. Then who took the cookies? The jar was full. Oh, I know. You took the cookies from the cookie jar.
The King, the Mice, and the Cheese, an old folktale. Once upon a time, there was a king, this guy right here, and he really loved one food in the whole wide world, and that food was cheese. He had cheese omelets for breakfast, he had cheese sandwiches for lunch, he had cheese souffle for dinner, and he had cheesecake for dessert. He would eat cheese all day and all night. He had all the best cheesemakers in the entire kingdom making all the best cheeses. Well, all those cheeses, the smell wafted out into the countryside, and who do you think could smell all that cheese? You got it. The mice in the countryside smelled all that delicious cheese. Ooh, let's smell that cheese. It smells so good. Oh, we gotta go find the cheese. We gotta go find the cheese. And they ran into the kingdom. They ran into the castle, and they found the king's very best cheese. And they started eating all that yummy cheese. Well, the king went to his cheese room, and he saw those mice eating that lovely cheese, and he got very upset, and he said, "What are we going to do?" And he called in all of his royal advisors. And the royal advisors thought, and they thought, and they thought, and they said, "We know. We're going to get all of the cats from the countryside, and we're going to bring them in, and they'll scare off all those mice, and the problem will be solved." Well, that's what they did. They went, and they got all the cats they could find from the countryside, and you can imagine when those mice saw those cats, they said, "Eek!" And they went running off and running off, and then the castle was filled with cats. Well, at first the king thought this was pretty good. He didn't mind having all the cats around, but it didn't take him long before the sound started to get to him. What do you guys think that sound was?
Meow,
meow, meow. And there was cat hair being shed everywhere, and they were sharpening their claws on the royal couch. Well, that was no good at all. The king was very upset. So the king called in his royal advisors, and the royal advisors thought, and they thought, and they thought, and they thought, "I've got it. We're going to get all of the dogs from the countryside to scare off all of the cats." Well, they did that. They brought in dogs that were big and dogs that were small and dogs that were spotted and dogs that were striped. Those dogs saw those cats. The cats said, "Ah!" and went running and running and running and running. And then the castle was all filled with dogs. Well, at first the king thought that was pretty nice. There wasn't cat hair everywhere and no one was sharpening their claws on any of the royal furniture. But the dogs weren't very well behaved. They weren't house trained and they kind of did their business wherever they wanted to, and so the smell in the castle started to get pretty bad, and the dogs were shedding all over the place, and the dogs were lounging all over the place, and between the smell and the lounging, the king had to do something. So he called in his royal advisors, and he asked them to solve the dog problem. The royal advisors thought this was a tricky, this was very hard. They had to come up with a very good idea for how to get rid of these dogs, and they got the idea. They thought, we're going to go out and we're going to get all of the lions from the countryside, and those lions will scare off those dogs. Well, the dogs saw the lions, and the dogs said, woof, and they went running and running and running and running away. And now they had a castle filled with lions. Well, it really didn't take the king long to realize that a castle filled with lions is not a good thing at all. The lions were lounging all over the place. The lions were roaring all the time. What do you guys think that sounded like? All the time. And the lions were lounging all over the royal couch, and they wouldn't let the king watch his favorite CNN. They only would watch Animal Planet, and this was very upsetting for the king. So the king called in his royal advisors once again. I'm getting very upset with you. None of these problems are being fixed. It's just a worse problem, one after the other. What are we going to do about this lion situation? Well, the royal advisors thought. And then they came up with a great idea. They said, we're going to go and we're going to get all of the elephants from the countryside. And sure enough, all those elephants from the countryside, when they saw all those lions, or the lions saw the elephants, the lions said, "Roar!" And they went running and running and running and running, and the castle was now filled with elephants. Well, really, it took him about 2 seconds to realize that a castle filled with elephants is no good at all. The elephants were stomping all over the place. The elephants were bouncing into the royal couch. The elephants were even stomping on the royal cheese. Well, that's what this was all about in the first place. They were stomping on the royal cheese. That's no good. So the king, very frustratedly, called his royal advisors and said, if you guys don't solve this problem, I don't know what I'm going to do. I've got to have my cheese. This is terrible. And the royal advisors thought, and they thought, what takes care of elephants? What would get all of those elephants out of the castle? And they came up with an idea. They called back in all of the mice from the countryside. And if you didn't know, elephants are deathly afraid of mice. And when the elephants saw those mice, the elephants said, eek, and they went running and stomping and running and running and running. And now the castle was quiet, but it was filled with these guys. But when the king thought about his castle filled with cats, what did that sound like? It was like, meow, meow. Or the castle filled with dogs, what was that like? Roof, 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 roof. Or the castle filled with lions, with the roar. Or the castle filled with elephants when they were stomping all over the place. The castle filled with mice wasn't so bad. So the king decided that he would strike a deal with the mice and that they would share all of the royal cheese. And they lived happily and cheesily ever after.
Have you ever gone fishing on a bright sunny day with all the little fishes swimming up and down the bay with your hands in your pockets and your pockets